with Julie Riga. Julie, how are you? And I know you're excited about our guest today.
I'm super excited to interview Phil Harrington today.
All right. I'm excited to talk to Phil. I love when he talks networking. Networking seems like so much fun. I use it in my daily basis through podcasting. That's where I build all my network. They just come see me and I get my one-to-ones anytime I want 24/7 because I'm crazy enough to do 30 to 40 shows a week. But go ahead, Julie, with your first question for Phil.
Well, that's a lot. Let me first introduce Phil because he is from Boise and a networking expert. He's known for connecting small businesses with valuable referrals and services. Phil has over 5,000 professional network connections, and now he's created the Connector community where he helps businesses thrive through his extensive network. Welcome, Phil, to the Stay on Course podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Really excited to have you here today, and it is just a better day seeing your smiling face. Phil, tell us, what is your favorite food?
My favorite food, anything Mexican.
Well, Phil, I had Mexican last night and for lunch today. What about you, Neil? You like Mexican?
Yeah, I love Mexican. It's awesome.
It's awesome. It's awesome. Well, Phil, we're so excited to have you here because we're going to talk about networking, something that is near to my heart, and obviously Neil from the Neil Haley Show. I love saying that. We want to know more about this and how you have tell us a little bit about your journey to getting to
Yeah.
this place of creating the connector community, and then we'll get into those ingredients for success.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So I actually come from cold call sales. And when I say cold call, I mean I did telemarketing long distance service, sold MCI long distance service. I did car sales. I did
Ooh.
door to door merchant services back in the early 2000s. So I'm one of your few people out there that love cold calling. I love walking through the door, meeting new people, convincing them to buy the thing that I have, right? So I end up in Boise, Idaho at the end of 2017, at the end of my as I got divorced, and I'm like, oh crap, I don't know anybody. So I'm looking for a product to just start going door to door because that's what I do. And then a buddy of mine said owned a website company, and he said, "Hey, if I put you in BNI, will you go every week?" And I'm in yes mode because we have no money. You're in yes mode, so you're like, sure. What's BNI? And I get in there and like, holy crud, everybody will do a one-to-one. What's this one-to-one thing? And the hardest thing for a salesperson to get is someone to listen to them, right? So I'm like, let's go. I did 4,000 one-to-ones in the last 6 years. I had them coming in on the hour at the coffee shop, just
Wow.
sitting there being a professional networker because I didn't know anything else. I just knew I needed to meet people. So that's how it was all kind of born. I did it all wrong to begin with, but I've learned over the last 6 years and so many one-to-ones, when you do something so many times and you start to see patterns and all that type of stuff. And so now I teach people how to network.
Wow. And you're doing it through the connector community, and we're going to find out more about that. But tell us a little bit more then about these ingredients for success that you have been inspired to share with the world
Yeah.
because of your expertise. Let's get into this because I want
So
to want to learn how to do a great one-on-one, Phil.
I wrote a course. It's called Give to Grow, which is counterintuitive to a lot of things out there, right? Everyone talks about give value, give value, give value, but really give, and what I mean by that is when you sit down with somebody to do your one-to-one, your whole goal is to give them something. For me, it was connections, right? As I grew my network, how can I connect this person? How can I make their day? How can I make them money? As soon as you make somebody money, you're their best friend. If you make an introduction that makes them money or leads them to a sale, again, best friend. So that was my kind of give, and I didn't really realize I was doing it that was my heart. And so when I sat with people, it's like, how can I give you more than you give me? And what I did, I mean, I did it wrong to begin with, which is what they call what do they call it? The pitch slap.
Yeah,
where,
the pitch slap. Yes.
where you sit down and you go, guess what I have? It's all about me. And you're like, you want to see my video? Here you go. And so when you do that, that turns people off. And that gets around your network pretty fast. But once I figured out it was the opposite, the give, that's the first ingredient. If you do nothing else, you can be totally screw everything up. But if you sit and listen first, 2 ears, one mouth, listen more than you talk, you're going to win.
Yeah, and you're winning by the relationship. You're actually building a relationship you didn't have before.
Yes, yes. And then what happens is you start becoming that center of influence because you want to be in the middle of every conversation that happens. What I mean by that is if somebody called me right now and says, do you know somebody that builds an app? I'm going to say yes, even if I don't, because I'm going to go ask my network for it so I can bring it back to that person. And now I'm a hero, right? So then you become
Absolutely.
your own circle, build your own connector community, if you will.
Yes.
And that's, see, the key thing is once we figure it out, right? It's like we just want more one-on-ones. And we know exactly it's about listening to Phil, right? And
Mhm.
I love the fact you talk about BNI and learning the specific process and then saying, okay, I get this. I have to give them something of value to get the relationship started and see where it goes. It doesn't always have to be money, but that's a great thing for you to think about, especially if you're connecting people that you know have great products or services. However, if you have some value like a podcast or something else, that also will open up the door in the relationship as well.
Yes, I agree. 100%. 100%.
Love it. Love it. And let's go to the next ingredient, Phil.
So we talked about, how to properly do, how to properly do a one-to-one. So when you do your one-to-one, your job, again, we talked about listening, is always let the other person go first. And if
Mm.
you allow that to happen, even if it takes the entire time, then it's actually better if it takes the entire time. So just kind of think of when someone's talking, there's pennies coming out of their mouth. It's more opportunity for you. So
Yes.
just listen, 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 listen. It'll naturally turn around to you. And when they ask you, oh, so, we talked all about me. Tell me about you. As soon as they say that, they now have open ears and open heart to hear what you have to say.
I love
If
that.
if you did it beforehand and you sat down and you said, well, let me tell you about this great thing I'm doing and I'm super stoked and da da da, they haven't even sunk in and had their cup of coffee yet. You know what I mean? They didn't even really start to get into it. So they always go first, even if they take the whole time.
That
Yeah.
makes until you kind of understand who they are. It's the listening process
And you're
so
and you're
much.
and you're getting a ton of information if you listen properly, take notes, all that
Yeah.
stuff, right? I always
Yeah.
just think I'm just getting more and more ammo for either you to purchase what I maybe have or I can connect you with somebody. I'm just getting information that's just going to help along the way.
Yeah. That's a really good one. It's the idea of being more interested than interesting.
Yes.
And it takes what I like to call listening to learn and also the power of curiosity. If you can stay curious and walk into those conversations just curious, like I
Yeah.
want to learn as much as I can about the person that's in front of me, then that's the right mindset to have as you walk into these conversations. This is a great conversation, Phil, because people need to hear this. People need to hear how to have the one-on-ones, how to do it better, the importance of networking. And what I realized over the last few days is that I'm meeting some great people. I then become the hub for people to meet people. So we
Yes.
all have that ability as we start doing these one-on-ones. I can and imagine you did it. You did 4,000 one-to-ones. That just blows my mind right now. But I wonder if we looked, Neil, how many one-on-ones we had this year. How many? I don't think we'd have 4,000, but really
These-
super
I
interesting.
mean, for me, oh my God. I mean, I could have had 4,000 this year. And that's one-to-ones because I do over 30 shows a week, plus talk to tons of people. So do the math. I could have gotten to that level
Yeah,
of,
maybe you
I
have.
mean,
May-
I would do 15 minutes, 15 minutes. So here's a sales tip. What I do, I'll book people on a podcast when I'm on in sales mode. So sometimes I'm not. I just working with my clients. We work together. We do have conversations. But when I decide I'm going to go in the mode, I will book 4 shows in 1 hour, and I will end up doing about 20 to 30 interviews a week just on that alone of one-on-ones that lead to the next one-on-one to one. So I don't know. I would say, let's just be conservative, 700, 800 this year, maybe more.
Nice.
That's a
Nice.
lot. That's a lot of people. That's a lot.
Nice.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right.
Well, yeah,
So
and see over 6 years, that's 4,200. So you got
that's a lot.
it.
I mean, I've interviewed over 10,000 people so on my show.
Yes,
So
nice.
if you call all those once, yeah, I
Yeah.
lose track.
And an interesting number real quick, just to help people think, when you present what you do. So when they finally do say, "Hey, what do you do?" Remember to shoot over their head. And what I mean by that is in network marketing, they always say, go make a list of 100 people, because they know that everybody knows about 100 people.
Right.
The average networker knows 1,000 people,
Right.
and the average super connector knows 5,000 people. So do you want the one sale, or do you want the sales in their network?
And that's where I look at is such an important thing. It's just, it depends on what you're offering and what you're developing, but so true. All right. We're ready for the last ingredient, Julie.
Yeah, I want to talk to this one that you mentioned before, identifying your power partner.
Oh, I love that. I love that question. Okay. So what I didn't realize at the beginning is that my brain naturally sorts people into power teams. And what a power team is, or they also say joint venture, collaborator, those types of things, is, let's take any business. Let's take a restaurant, for example. Let's say your avatar is the restaurant owner and you want to deal with the restaurant owner. So instead of going directly to the restaurant owner, let's go look at everybody that services that restaurant owner. The guy that services his dishwasher, the guy that washes his linens, the guy that delivers his ice, the guy that did go find those people and do a collaboration with them, because they're going to have not just that one restaurant owner, but a whole list of them, because that's their customer.
Yep.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And
That
that's
makes
where you
total
never
sense.
know,
Yeah.
right? But you got to be able to know that they're going to give. In networking, we run into the problem, Phil. You give, and they're not giving you anything in return. So you have to evaluate that.
Mm-hmm.
Hundred.
That you have my value added resellers, which I remember in the VAR partner days of working for a company. I have value added resellers for my agency, and some of them are doing a hell of a job, and some of them I'm like, okay, don't worry about it. I think I'm good. We're good now. You know what I mean? You're not introducing me to the right people, but we have to identify that too, right? And that's where you kind of can give us one more golden nugget. How do you really know that they're going to be giving enough to really introduce you to the right people? Or is it a risk? And that's why it's not.
Yeah, I think you always go with they are going to until they don't.
Okay.
Right. So just go with that. Go with that. And let's see it. We have about 200 members in our community right now, and 20 of them have already started referring back to our community. So maybe that's a good number to look at. Maybe 10%.
Right.
Of people are probably going to be go-getters. But you can also, the longer you do it, the more you get a feel for, are they putting people before profits or profits before people?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Because it's about serving at the end of the day. And if you're not providing a value service to somebody, then forget about it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Julie, back to you.
So, Phil, was there one more ingredient you wanted to share? Or
No, I'm good.
3.
I mean, we had
Yeah,
20,
great.
but I think that's
We
good.
had 20. Okay. So
then come talk to me about more.
all right, fine. I'll ask that question then. What is the last thing you want to tell people about networking as we close our session? And I want to learn more about where to find out more about you. But what is the one thing, like if one thing stood out to you as far as us doing our one-on-ones, finding those powering partners, is there something else that you're thinking about that you want our audience to know about, or something you want to highlight?
Yes. Okay. If you take away one thing, it's this.
Yes.
Your calendar should be more than 50% filled with sales related activities if you're going to succeed. Because most businesses fail because not enough people know what they do.
Yes.
So when you're sitting at home and twiddling your thumbs and saying, I don't know where all the business is, you need to be networking, because networking counts as a way to advertise your business.
Got it.
So if you're starting out, you should be 80% of your calendar should be networking, calling people, meeting
Sales.
people,
Yeah, all that.
sales,
Sure.
sales related activities.
Exactly.
I
Yeah, and
completely
it's funny.
agree. The mistake is
Th-
people doing social media all the time and doing all these other things, and they're trying these new programs and stuff, and they're not out there talking to people. So you don't talk to people, you don't get any business. That's the bottom line.
Mhm.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
not getting sales every week if you don't talk to people.
Well,
So
and then
true.
one of the things, Phil, that I do with my clients is the first thing I tackle is the calendar. I say, what are you doing? Let's look at it. And I get into their stuff. They don't like it. They do not like it. But
Mhm.
I literally go, I like I'm not like a parent, but sort of like a parent because I get into every hour. I'm like, what are you doing 8 o'clock? What are you doing at 5 o'clock? Like we go through the day with a fine tooth comb. And at the end of that session, they have a calendar that they can literally see the activities they need to do and how many of those networking calls they need to be on. It shines the light on all that stuff. So I love that you said that, because 50 to 80%, guys, everyone who's listening, if you're in small business, you're running a business, 50 to 80% of your time needs to be spent speaking to people. So,
Mhm.
Phil, tell us more about where we can find out more about what you're doing.
Oh, yeah. So, what we've basically done at the Connector community is I read a book a long time ago that said if you eliminate one step from an already proven system, you can create a new category. And so, what we've essentially done to make it very simple, we've eliminated the meeting. So, we do all the networking for you. We say we build the network, you build the relationships. We're like a LinkedIn or Alignable, but it's invite only. That way we can grassroots this thing and be super powerful people that are coming into this, because they're not just anybody and everybody come in. Everybody has to meet me or one of the people on my team in order to even be able to join our community.
All right. I love this.
Yeah.
Great stuff, Phil. Again, best place people can go.
Oh, basically, yeah. philtheconnector.com.
All right. That was the special simulcast of the Neil Haley Show and the Stay on Course podcast.